Well, it's Wednesday. That means it's Wednesdays with Ward, the final episode of the 2012-13 season. Coach, thanks for sharing some time with us today.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Crazy week. You've known your season was going to end. The season did come to an end, and you have since sent all the players home. Just maybe talk about process, how you wrap up a season, and what's gone on in the last 7 days.
Well, we finished up there in Oklahoma City this last weekend. I thought that, given the circumstances where they were at, I thought the Friday game was a typical Heat game. We ended up losing 1-0 about the last 6 minutes of the game. Played pretty well, played well enough to win, and then Saturday was actually a really good game there too, and we took some penalties that put them on a 5-on-3 for an extended period of time. Some of those generated by players, some generated by coach. I just didn't think they managed the game very well, and they capitalized on those chances. So we ended up battled hard, but we lost that game as well. And so then we had a meeting right after the game, kind of as the logistics of how we come home here and what we have to do and what's going to take place on which particular day. And most importantly, we talked about how do you put an end to a season for a player, and then how do you put an end to the season for the coaches and the management. So we laid out the last couple of days. Monday this week, we started our exit interviews with players. Myself, John Weisbrod, and Ron Sutter came in as a developmental coach for some of those meetings. And we had exit physicals when we got back. And that's pretty much the last 2 full days have been all about just bringing closure to the season with players individually. And we spent about a half hour with each player.
So the players are gone, you've dealt with them, but you're not done. I'm sure the way you're going, you've also going to have exit meetings with staff, as be it coaches, trainers, equipment guys.
And even yourself. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this.
I'll have exit interviews with everybody that I work with on a day-to-day basis as far as the staff is concerned. And that's really important too. But the other part that's really important is that we bring closure to the season as far as coaches, as to the good things that we did and the things that we need to improve on. And we need to look at things based on where we live and our proximity to our division and how we travel and how we go about everything. While things are fresh in our mind, I believe that this is a 10-day segment right now in a coach's life where you really have to really work really hard for long hours to put this season to bed. Tend to usually, when you're a young coach, leave it and then try and bring it back in the fall. And I think any good coaching staff always starts over in the fall from where you begin. So in order for us to finalize this the right way, we'll put all our PowerPoint presentations, everything together this next 10 days and make sure that every coach has got a copy and that we're all on the same page as we leave here.
And then as you finish with your staff, interestingly, you go up a layer in the organization. They're going to bring you guys in for a conversation on how things went. How does that unfold, and what's that like being on the other side of the interview?
Well, it's a learning time. Obviously, I think anytime you can spend time with your own management staff up above you in Calgary and those coaches, you just you generate more thought process towards how you look at players and how they look at players and what's important up there, and it helps you become a better teacher down here, because the way they look at their players and how they exit interviewed players and things that were said about each particular player that had significant time in this organization, it now lends itself for us to easily move into the next segment, which is really the summer camp, where we bring in players we've drafted, and we have a summer camp in July in Calgary. So that'll help us with that whole process. But I think it also sets up for a good training camp next fall.
And it probably influences free agency as well, as obviously your pro scouts that the Flames have will build lists. But your assessment of what you've had here might, I guess, influence your general managers above you.
A little bit, yeah. We'll talk about the stats and who's generated what over the last year, whether they're with us or they're with us for 2 years, how they complement the development process of our players. That's really critical, mostly the development process, because ultimately I think winning here is like the cherry, on top of the whole sundae. But really what you're trying to do is develop players, both on and off the ice. And so we have to look at our players that we bring in the future that might, let's say, just end up on a AHL deal or whatever. But we just have to see how they're going to complement and how they'll help grow the prospects. And obviously we're in a time of transition, both in Abbotsford and Calgary right now. And we've got to be real critical to which players we bring in here, and they have to complement the group that we have.
It does not take a general manager to realize that this team's probably going to have a lot of rookies next year and will be significantly younger, perhaps not in the rookie count, but your average age of rookie is going to be certainly a lot lower, just given the number of signings you've had, major junior graduates as well as college grads and players coming over from Europe. You look forward to that challenge?
Yeah, I do. I think, it could bank on maybe potentially being in this business a while. It could bank on a slow start. But, at the same time, like peaking in this league is a real important thing. It's easy to say that this team that we had this year peaked, sometime in the early part of the year with that particular group of people. And we peaked at a different time in the second half, and then we had a tough stretch there for a while. So, I think, how we move forward and what we do is it has a lot of different points that we have to bring onto the table. But we are excited about working with new young players. Ultimately, it's really what you're here for, and I think you'll see the depth of the organization change because we're starting to get some draft picks and some young players in here. So I find it a very exciting time, very rewarding time, and I look forward to it. And the only thing you really change is really just your level of patience. You change your level of patience with the young guys and understand that it's going to take some time.
Does Troy G. Ward have an off button? What do you do in the off season?
Well, I just try and be a father. I mean, that's mainly it. And I have the benefit, to be honest with you. I have an 18-year-old boy who turned 18 today. Happy birthday, Nathan.
Right on.
And I have a son that's 22, and they're both, they're both at that college age, and they happen to be around the age of the guys that I coach. So I get a day-to-day training in the summer as to what's ahead of me in the fall and in the patience level and just their ability to comprehend things, as they're my two kids. So they're in that age bracket where I think everything that they do is similar to the guys that what they do here. So it's probably a pretty good fit for me to just kind of keep being a good father in the summer and then just bringing that back into the fall.
Coach, thanks for sharing some time with us. The final episode of Wednesdays with Ward. Empty stalls behind us. We'll see you in the fall.
Sounds good. Thank you.